Hi, thanks so much for joining me today. We are talking all about my favorite brushes. I am trying to convert everything over to Ray Morris brushes because I like the magnetic aspect of them, that they can actually be housed in a frame and be stored upside down. So those are a few things that I like about those, but as I narrow down what I actually want to purchase from Ray Morris, I'm looking at my brushes that I rely on every day. So I'll be looking for things that are the similar shape and that can do the same job. So let's start with foundation. So starting with the foundation brush, I have a Shiseido brush, and this is little. I mean, it's not very large at all, but what I like about it is that it is still pretty quick and it can get into all those areas like right here next to the nose. If you want to go in between the eyebrows, it fits really nicely there. It also goes along the top of the brows really nicely, and again can get into those smaller areas more easily than this. So I have this, which I like. It's the Artiste brush. I've talked about it before. And while I like this because it's really quick, it is a bit harder to get into those smaller areas, and then also to clean this is kind of a hassle because it's so large and so dense that it takes a lot of work to clean it. And then, yeah, it's just more, it's higher maintenance than this. It's a nice brush. It does cut down on time, but not by that much. So I do prefer this one, and this is actually a gift from my stepdaughters. They did a lot of research into finding the best foundation brush, and this is one I keep going back to over and over. It's just easy to use, it's easy to clean, easy to travel with too. So I actually prefer this to the Artiste brush. Although this is still a nice brush, I don't think it saves that much time. This has a really smooth application though, so there's a bit of a trade-off, but again, for that smoother look, it's a bit more high maintenance. Next onto my concealer brush. This is my favorite. It's by Ray Morris. It is magnetic, so this is one I will keep as part of the collection. It fits really well under the eye for concealer, and then also on any of my darker areas. Plus it's tapered at the end, so if you have somewhere like a little blemish you want to cover up, that will cover it up easily with just this one brush. So if you have a larger area, it's good. And also if you have a smaller area, it's good. Oh, here's a cream brush. So I like cream products. So this one's really good for cream bronzer and cream highlighter. It's the Luxie 504 angled brush. And I take a little bit of cream bronzer. I take a little bit of cream bronzer on this side and apply it. And then I also use the other side for highlighter and blush. So it's like a multi-use kind of brush. It works really well with my Tom Ford bronzer and highlighter. When it comes to powdering things, I have either a small brush, a tiny small, not tiny, but it's a small brush for powder, and then also a very large brush. So these are my two favorites. I don't really have a medium-sized brush for powders, although there is one, but it's more specialized. So this one is great. It's Real Techniques. It's not very pricey, but it fits really nicely under the eye area, and also again to powder those smaller areas. Like sometimes this is an area that's tricky to get into on the sides of the nose, and then right up along the brow bone, again in between the brows. It powders really nicely. Sometimes I've even used this to powder my entire face, so it doesn't take that long. Or I really like this one. This giant one is by It Cosmetics. It's the 211 all over powder brush. I like to use this with both my setting powder, so Hourglass setting powder is really good with this, and I also like to use it with my Hourglass ambient lighting powder and radiant light for all over the face. I think my first video I posted, I used this and I was stamping it on, and the funny story about that is I think I tried to do that take over 10 times because it was like it had to be a minute long because it was part of like a promotion. So that was the first thing I posted on Instagram, and I think, yeah, that's one of my first videos. Anyway, the reason why it's so glowy is because I had done that take, yeah, over 10 times, like maybe 15, and every time I reapplied it, I probably didn't actually need to reapply that much, but this is what I used. It's really good if you want to cover a large area quickly, and works really well for those ambient lighting powders. I also love this brush. It's the Kevyn Aucoin Super Soft Buff Powder Brush, and I love this for the ambient lighting powders, and then also to buff in other things like bronzers or something needs to be blended. So this is really good for blending big face products too, like bronzers, and just to get everything to look a little bit more seamless. I love this one. Now when it comes to contour, this is an interesting one. I don't see this a lot. This came in a limited edition, I think it was like a travel Sephora brush set. And what I like about this is that it's very narrow. So I used it on the sides of my nose for contour with the Kevyn Aucoin sculpting powder in medium. Really great for this area. I can just stamp it on here and then I'll flip it over and I'll blend it in really well right along the nose. So I don't know why they don't make this shape more often, but I'll see if I can find other ones that do the same job, and I will link those below. As for other bronzers, like powder bronzers, I love this Giorgio brush by NARS, and I like it because it's so lightweight and it blends in really easily, and I like to hit the bottom of my cheekbone with this brush to get bronzer on because it's a little bit more diffused with that. Speaking of contour, I have the Ultimate Cheekbone brush. It's one of my favorite brushes from Ray Morris. I have the two other ones that are like this shape. Oh, I should go get them. I'll insert a picture because I'm afraid the lighting is gonna get messed up if I stand up, but I'll show you this whole set. There are 3 of them. They don't come in a set, but I bought them individually and then they fit in this holder together. But out of all 3 of them, I use this one the most. You add a little bit of contour right here, and then you put it against your cheek and you swipe. So as you put the product down, as you deposit it, the rest of the brush will blend it in. It's not totally blended in, so I will go in and buff it out a little bit more, but I love this for being very precise in where you're placing it, because sometimes if you're not careful, it can end up looking too low or looking too wide. So this really places it well, but then I go in and I buff it after. So really, really love this brush, and I think I've seen dupes of this. I'll look to see if I can find any more, because this alone, I think was like $80. It was a lot for one brush, but definitely worth it. I've had it for years, love it. Here's another one. I love this one. It's a Tarte Holiday Kit brush. And again, it's one of those things that I don't see a whole lot of. I don't see a lot of just brushes that look like this, but I like how it's so separated. So if you look, it's not very dense at all. And I like that because then it lets you lightly brush on blush. I have a little bit of blush on right now. If you don't want something too dense, then this is a really great one. And then it just feels like angel wings on your face, and you just barely touch your cheek with it, and it deposits that color really beautifully, really kind of airbrushed look about it. I love this one. Okay, now I wanted to talk to you about these 2 brushes by Ray Morris. When I was more into blush, I used these more, but I can show you what they look like. I'll just show you here, because now that's one thing that happens when they are magnetic. They will stick together like this. So just be careful. But I'm gonna go in with the NARS Luster blush with the larger brush and just show you how I use both of these. So I just go around like this. I'm just gonna go really, really gentle here. And then I'll take this smaller brush and I'll go in with something like, where'd it go? This Charlotte Tilbury Cheek to Chic. I love this one too. It's definitely more intense. So I'm just taking the smaller one and I'm swirling in here really gently, because this is a really densely kind of intense blush if you're not careful. And then I'm just gonna pop it on right here, like right below the end of my eye, and then blend it in. So you get a little bit more dimension. I know it's really like, it's subtle, but I'm not really wearing blush that much these days. I probably won't when it goes back to winter, but you can see that it places that color in a very targeted area so that you can get the desired effect if that's what you're looking for. But yeah, gosh, if you can't, can you see that even? I can. That is how I use those 2 brushes together. I don't want to go too overboard because otherwise it just will look like, it'll look like too much. Let's just even it up here. So same thing. And with the smaller brush, and because the brush is white, you can really see the pigment on there. And you see, I mean, it lays it on pretty thick. Let me just take the bigger one and blend that in, because that one left a lot more than I really wanted on there. Yeah, right away you can see, I can see that it's left a lot. So I'm gonna take the side that doesn't have as much product on there and just really work it in there so it's not so much. Another trick you can do, if you're like, that is too much, I'm gonna go in with this buffing brush and I take the Hourglass powder and I'm just gonna stamp it on and blend in a little. So just muted it down, took it down a notch. If you get kind of out of control with your blush, that is a little trick you can do without starting over. Okay, next brush. I love this Smudge brush from Laura Mercier. It's also one of those travel sets. I love buying sets of brushes or travel sets because they come in a set. I just love buying things in sets when it comes to brushes, especially travel sets, because I like to find solutions and if it's already in one place, although I purchased about probably 3 travel sets by 3 different companies by this point, and I just like to buy them. I don't know. But this is really great for smudging underneath because it's very narrow and it'll keep that color close without blowing it out too much. Now, if you do want to blow it out though, this is a good one. This is by Crown Brush and it's a crease shadow brush. So this is more like a pencil brush, and you can also do the same thing, although this will buff it out and blow it out just a little bit more than this one. So 2 really good ones. Now fan brushes. I love a good fan brush for highlight, but I haven't found one I love yet. But I'll show you the 2 that I have and what I like and don't like about both of them. And hopefully maybe Ray Morris has one that I'll like. This one I like because it's light, it's kind of smaller and doesn't have many bristles and it's not that dense. So it doesn't add too much product on at one time. This one is by Kevyn Aucoin, and it's a very nice one, but it's, look how big it is. Like, it's big, and it's hard to control. I can't fit it on my nose. Yeah, my nose is pretty small, so it doesn't really work well for highlighting this part of my nose. I try and keep as much highlight off the bottom of my nose as possible, but I try and get it right here because it'll give my nose bridge a little bit more dimension, but it's a little bit, I mean, it's big. So if I could find something in between, I'm kind of on the hunt for that. Oh, should we try this one while we're here? This is a new one. Let's see, where is it? Oh, this was part of my haul. This is the Highlight Illuminator. Let's just try it because I'm curious, but it looks like it's gonna be way too much. Let's just see. Gosh, because it's so thick here. Let's see. Oh yeah. And as expected, it's a little, like it's too much for me, but some people might like that. Maybe down the bridge of my nose it'll be good because it's tapered. Yeah, it works really well there, but cheekbone area, it's a lot for me. So if you, yeah, if you like that kind of highlight on you, then this is a really great brush. I probably won't use it for that myself. I'm gonna just take my buffing brush and buff that out just a little. Yeah, this is a very multitasking kind of brush. And that's it for my favorite brushes. So if you have any brushes that you want me to know about that you love, please let me know. I think they make such a difference when it comes to applying makeup, although some are more expensive and they're worth it, and some are less expensive and they're also worth it. So I don't think you have to have brushes that are all high-end, because as you can see, I have some that are from Real Techniques and I have some that are like super high-end, like something like this. I don't have, there are some Japanese brushes that are even more than this. I haven't tried those yet, but I do enjoy a whole range of them as long as they do the job. So if you enjoyed this video, if you learned something, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Where are you, highlighter? It is a disaster. Okay. My foot is asleep. again.